A group of villains beats up Jeffrey, who is guilty before them, but suddenly a man with 2 guns comes on the scene and shoots everyone. That leaves only the bulletproof guy and his boss. They start fighting with their fists, and the big man shows all his might, breaks his arms and kills them both. The hitman saves Jeffrey. He says he killed the others only to kill Jeffrey himself and shoots the victim. The police arrive on the scene and the thug doesn't have time to get away, so he puts his hands behind his head and surrenders. The news reports that the world has been overrun by superhumans. Seeing people throwing lightning bolts in the street is commonplace, but then there must be a law, right? Evil superhumans are imprisoned, and one of them is our bouncer, known locally as the Payback. The man who keeps the superhumans is known as Overseer Devlin. He tells us that it is thanks to him that the mutants are kept in horrible conditions in which they cannot use their powers. The news anchor asks him about the people who didn't commit serious crimes but ended up in Santaguran anyway. He can't find anything to answer and gets off the air. The warden is told that the prisoners are on their way. And indeed, there are people in orange prison uniforms sitting in a big black bus. When they go inside, they are threatened by those already serving their time because they have a personal score to settle. Every mutant is examined and laughed at, as they are truly powerless in this prison. Diego, on the other hand, has no dangerous superpowers at all. He is more of a lover than a mutant. The Payback is treated very roughly and is electrocuted. The guard says that they are likely to die in this prison, and the warden says that they are guests, which means they can't even go to the bathroom without his permission. Payback meets Jim Diamond on a walk and immediately starts a fight. Gordon Tweedy takes Diego aside. The Payback has always been a master of hand-to-hand combat and without superpowers, so he gives Jim Diamond a serious thrashing. But just as he swung at Jim for the decisive blow, the guards electrocuted him. All the while, the guards stand by and watch as they mutilate each other. The Payback is beaten by a girl guard and they are taken away. Gordon tells Diego that he knew this would happen, and afterwards tells him about himself. He's a mad scientist connected to electricity, one of the first prisoners of the Santaguran, and also the owner of superpowers. Then he gives the guy a tour of the prison, telling him to mind his own business and stay out of trouble. Gordon introduces Diego to Darius, who doesn't look very nice and doesn't even shake Diego's hand, telling him to watch out for squishy guys. Gordon says he would like to escape from here, but the shackles are restraining all his strength, and he is incapable of doing anything while he is wearing those iron bands. Diego asks Gordon about escaping, but the man says that escaping from prison is quite impossible. Then the guy asks about the most dangerous prisoner, the Loeb. Diego has heard so much about him, and Gordon says that he really is invincible, since he can get into anyone's head and make them do whatever he wants. Loeb himself walks down the hallway to talk to the Overseer. He has no intention of obeying his laws, but later the Overseer himself comes down to him and tells him that Loeb has a choice. Either he will be lobotomized and left to rot in prison for the rest of his life, or he will give the Overseer all his fortune. Loeb quickly agrees to the second option. The Payback, meanwhile, cannot wake up and come out of his coma. Diego goes to do some cleaning in the hospital wing of the prison and meets a beautiful girl, Isabel Josephs, who works as a doctor. She is waiting for one of the inmates with the superpower of regeneration to grow a head and seems like a very kind person, unlike everyone else here. Loeb comes to see her and they have a nice conversation, but behind her appears the Payback, who has been dreaming of doing away with Loeb. It turns out that he pretended to be in a coma and attacked the prisoner. Diego appeared behind him and intervened, protecting poor Loeb. After this heroic act, everyone in the prison shares desserts with Diego, due to the fact that everyone respects Loeb, but everyone hates the Payback. Soon the once unfriendly Darius approaches their table and invites Diego out for a walk. The guard lets the boy pass to the cell where Loeb is sitting, and he thanks him for saving him and asks him to help him with one thing. He is to keep watch in the tunnel, but Diego does not give a clear answer, asking for time to think it over. The warden, meanwhile, talks to the head of the guards. He goes crazy and threatens his deputy with a setup. The guards, meanwhile, also live ordinary lives and agree to play a game of poker, for example. Isabel arrives early in the morning at work and talks to the Payback and he tells her that she is trying in vain to take care of them because the prisoners are soulless beasts, but Isabel is not going to listen to this nonsense. She will take care of them, whatever they may be. Gordon goes to the warden and tells him that he has reformed and become the right man. The warden himself takes him to emotion, saying that he is useless and invisible to everyone. Darius brings Gordon something on the table, and he tells Diego that today they will punish the Payback. The Payback himself goes out on the grounds during the walk and waits to be attacked, but the prisoners stall, as if waiting for something to happen. And they were waiting for an enraged Gordon, who took the neutralizer off his leg and decided to stage a riot. His nickname was Conductor, and so he pulled the wire from the ceiling and put it to himself. Electronic discharges rushed through his body, which he releases at the guard and he falls, requesting backup before doing so. Diego tries to calm him down, but it turns out it was all just for a fight on the street. The guard that Gordon hit turns out to be dead. The warden asks everyone to say any information about the mutant rioter. Gordon runs into the office, anticipating his freedom. He is sure he will escape, but the girl guard knocks him down and receives orders from the warden. Kill the guide. The girl has to do it, and she beats him to death with her fists. The news reports that Gordon Tweedy died as a result. Diego is on the phone with his girlfriend with the baby, and she asks him to run away quickly and not get into trouble. The warden invites the guy for a walk and shows him one scary room, as if to threaten him if he gets stupid. Afterwards, he asks him to say anything Loeb asks him to say. Diego nods silently and leaves. The warden goes to Loeb's cell and threatens him, telling him in passing that he is aware of his plans. The man begs Loeb to get money in the next 24 hours. Loeb says he can't do it and the overseer is very angry because he wants to retire with a lot of money for this hard work. Felicia investigates the murder in the sewers and, in parallel, says that she is aiming for the overseer's position. In the morning Diego receives a letter. The payback puts up a picture of his lover and can't take his eyes off her. It's a typical morning in prison, but something isn't right. The payback tattoos a symbol on his forehead. He goes out for a walk and runs into Jim Diamond again. Diego goes to Loeb and is angry because he is using him and he wants answers, but Loeb again answers nothing, which angers the guy. Felicia goes to the overseer and scolds him because she has been the longest, but the new overseer they want to appoint Brody, the head guard. The guard himself is somehow not too happy about becoming warden. Today is Devlin's last day, which means there will be a little party. Diego gets a note. Brody and Felicia are called to the overseer and the guard is appointed overseer after all. The woman becomes very upset and, unable to find the words, leaves. Devlin comes to Loeb's cell and asks him to transfer money to his account. Loeb stalls for time, as if waiting for the right moment. The payback, meanwhile, puts up a fight on the walk. Felicia is watching on camera. The payback is going to fight Jim Diamond again. Loeb is still stalling, pretending that nothing is loading. He blocks all the security gadgets and frees the mutants from their shackles. Jim Diamond turns into a mutant and pounces on the payback, and his superpower returns to Diego. He's an empath and gets really bad. Isabel takes care of him, but he's having a hard time at all. Felicia calls the overseer and tells him that the mutants have their powers back, but he finds himself locked in the same cell with Loeb and can't get out. The prisoners, meanwhile, are having a mayhem, with lasers, sound waves, fire, poison, telekinesis, and everything else imaginable flying everywhere. So that's the scramble. So what do the guards do? They just press against the wall and fight back. Felicia takes the lead as Brody just stands there and does nothing. Loeb reveals all the cards to the confused overseer. He has logged in and orchestrated a day of reckoning, and he succeeds because the same password fits everything in the prison, from the Wi-Fi to the security system. Felicia orders Brody to reset the generator and he goes to the basement, but Jim Diamond follows him. The warden tries to pretend that he doesn't care about what's going on because he's already got his money, but Loeb is clearly not telling him something and smiles. Jim Diamond finds Brody, beats him up, and tells him that Loeb bribed his fellow guard. He hits a pipe and escapes from the mutant, and Loeb tells the warden that he hasn't eaten prison food all this time, which would have restrained his power, and he has another power besides that. Diego and Isabel restrain the front door as best they can, but they can't. Eventually Loeb switches bodies with the overseer and knocks him out in his own body. He leaves the room and Loeb's body is sent to that scary cell. So they switch places. The Loeb in the overseer's body says that Felicia is now the new overseer, and the payback is lying in a mountain of corpses, clearly happy. Diego goes to Isabel to talk. He is transferred. They say goodbye and shake hands. The Loeb in Devlin's body has ordered haloperidol injected into the Loeb, so he's sure to go crazy, and Brody decides to quit so he can take care of his family. After the day of reckoning, he realized too much about how important family is. Diego gets out of jail, but when he turns back around, he smiles. Darius is released from prison at Loeb's insistence in Devlin's body and they leave there in a car and Loeb calls about flying to Switzerland on a private jet. Loeb's a genius. He transfers his own money and escapes in Devlin's body. And Diego has a happy life waiting for him, because the law has recognized that he does not belong to dangerous mutants.